All right, we are live. Clearly, we are not experts at this, but really excited to kick this event off. Many of you know me as a podcaster. Many times I talk about the latest crypto news, and I'll have Mike on from Deep Ventures at times, and Patrick. Today is going to be a little bit different. We are live streaming, and we're going to talk about gaming. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to create and host this event is because gaming, I mean, let's just face it, everyone seems to think that it's kind of fallen behind, at least in the Web3 space. But I want to do a little bit of digging here, and I want to talk to a couple of teams and really get an understanding of what they're building, because I think there are some interesting aspects that we can all learn from and take away and move forward as we continue to try to understand the and navigate the whole Web3 space, especially around gaming. So, with that in mind, I've brought in uh, Patrick of Helix and also Johnny from the Valley. So, both of these guys are going to come on. They're going to give us a quick little spiel about what they're working on, how it's different from the rest of the Web3 gaming landscape. And yeah, the goal here is to just learn a little bit, and then we'll take some questions from the audience. If you at home have questions, feel free to post them in the comments, and we'll go from there. All right, Patrick, welcome. Let's go ahead and I'll put you on the spot here. You go ahead and get started. Share us a little bit about Helix. Give us an overview, and then we'll kind of dive deeper into some questions.
No, that's great. I appreciate it, Mikhail. And my background, Mikhail, I've been in games one way or another now, gosh, for 20, 25 years. My first job as a teenager was actually working at Wizards of the Coast, of all places, back in the days of some of the early editions of Dungeons and Dragons. And I remember some of the first pallets of Magic the Gathering cards going out the door. So got my start early, but ended up kicking off my career at Microsoft. Spent about a decade there, either directly or tangentially tied to the Xbox and games business. Got tired of corporate life, decided I wanted to try something different, moved down to Austin, Texas, and helped grow a really amazing independent developer named Certain Affinity, helping build out their catalog of work, some small titles like Halo, Call of Duty, Doom that I worked on as part of that team for another decade. Ended up signing a development deal with a company called Gala Games, which you guys may be aware of, and joined the team, which is where I know some folks on the call from, and ran growing their portfolio of games for the platform. About 7-8 months ago, ended up leaving Gala and founding Helix Games. And what always struck me as interesting is the way people interact, consume, and discover games has fundamentally changed over the course of, the last 5, 10 years, right? Rewind 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you went to a GameStop or a store, you bought a packaged product. For another 5, 10 years now, all of a sudden it's largely digital, and you're still discovering those titles based on conventional ads and commercials and whatnot. But come to where we are today, and Gen Zers and Gen Airs, they watch games as much as they play games, right? And the ecosystem has fundamentally changed, not only how players engage with game content, but how players discover game content, and how developers are struggling to keep up with that change in consumption and discoverability. And so, my co-founders and I kind of looked at the current landscape, and I'm like, gosh, none of the distribution platforms have really evolved in 15 years. You look at Steam, really hasn't fundamentally changed. You can argue, Steam Workshop with UGC and things like that. You look at an Epic Games Store, they've done a couple iterations, but you could argue it's largely a reskin of Steam. And nobody's evolving with the change in consumptive behavior. Right now, you have your distribution platforms, you have your KOL influencer streaming platforms, you have your Twitches, your YouTubes, and then you have your developers, right? And I look at that now as kind of the holy trinity of gaming. You've got players, you've got developers, and you've got influencers, because influencers are now how players discover, learn, and interact. And at Helix, our vision and thesis is, if we bring all of those disparate platforms into one ecosystem, you can start to do some really exciting things that we've never been able to do before. And the beauty with Web3 is it gives us some technology that actually creates value for the influencers, for the players, and for the developers. And so what we've done at its core is, largely built a distribution platform that is, very akin to a Steam or an Epic Games Store, right? The ability as a developer to list a title, an ability as a developer to, set the criteria necessary, create your storefront, your game front. But also, what we're doing is ensuring that, again, influencers are also on the platform. So we have our own streaming platform as well, and we're providing them with some additional tools that we call digital doubles. So with I don't have my cell phone, pretend my book's my cell phone. With my cell phone, I snap a couple pictures, I read a script, I upload it. I now have a digital double that looks like me and talks like me. What's even more interesting is we have these AI agents, and they are game aware. So as a streamer, if I am playing a title, my AI digital double can actually narrate that stream for me. So we're giving them tools that enables them to expand the amount of content they can create, but that digital double can then interact with the audience. And again, it looks like and sounds like the influencer 24/7. So we've got the distribution platform, we've got the KOL and influencer platform with this AI agent. And what's beautiful is we're building this all on top of a decentralized physical infrastructure. We're building on top of a datagram substrate. And what that enables us to do is actually offer all of these services at a discount versus some of the comparable platforms that exist out there. So for us, it's all about unifying the ecosystem of gaming, giving more tools to the developers and to the influencers and ultimately to the player, and giving them more for less. Because that is one of the most difficult things for developers right now, is building games, getting the games discovered, and making some money. But the sleeper element to all of this is when you integrate developers, influencers, and players into a single ecosystem, you can do some really cool things, right? Like, so a developer launches a game. All of a sudden on the Helix platform, I can connect you with influencers that have the greatest demographic overlap of your target audience, all on platform, right? So I can immediately make connections that help drive discoverability. The other sleeper element of this is when you have that all under one umbrella, the amount of data you can pass back and forth between those users is incredible, right? Because right now you launch it on Steam, you hire an influencer on Twitch, you can't really track all of the elements of player engagement and behavior that you could if it was under one platform. So we've thought through all of these benefits to the influencer, to the developer, and to the player, and we're really excited to get this to market here later this year. So I think I might have gone over my time, Mikhail, but I tried to keep it as brief as I could.
No, that was really good. My question to you is something that I guess is a question for anybody here that's specifically the gaming space, is around how do these like indie studios, how do they compete with the traditional gaming studios? Because they have just so much more money, right? So many more resources. So what's like the edge that we can have over them?
And yeah, well, I think there's a couple, right? I think, think at this point it's generally accepted that, you know, the arms race of AA and AAA games have gotten to a point where it's not sustainable, right? And, you know, I think the macroeconomic realities of that are starting to become obvious with you know, layoffs and right sizings of budget. So, you know, I think we're having a reset towards, you know, more indie level games and budgets, because quite frankly, you know, you look at the large AAA games, they're largely being subsidized by even larger partners. But, you know, I think what blockchain and Web3 specifically enables us to do is, I think we're going to start to see AI leveraging decentralized physical infrastructure in a way that drives down costs of leveraging it in new and unique ways that will allow us to scale not only the generation of content for games, but even some design elements. And certainly, I think, you know, many are using it to help kind of scale engineering capacity and throughput on that front. But, you know, I think also digital ownership of assets is still very interesting, right? You know, I think the thing that we have to solve, and I was talking to somebody earlier this morning that used a great analogy, is, you know, I think most gamers today are still Web2 gamers. I don't think anybody would argue that. And these Web2 users aren't necessarily interested in extracting dollars and cents out of playing a game, right? The analogy somebody used to me is, hey, when you go hop on a plane, are you thinking you need a parachute? Because that's kind of the mental model, right? Is, hey, I'm on a plane, and if I want to get off midair, I'm going to have a parachute, right? Most people don't think about that when they hop on a plane. And that's kind of what we're asking them to do when we come into the ecosystem. So, you know, I think that line of thinking we have to evolve out of. It is, how do we create compelling interactions that make the adoption and education necessary to participate and get into digital asset ownership meaningful to the users? And, you know, our thesis is you can start to do some really creative things when you have influencers, players, and developers all in the same ecosystem, because that's how they're already engaging and consuming. It's not about saying, hey, you can earn money. It's about, hey, you can engage in really new, compelling ways that most of us on this call haven't even thought of, right? So, you know, that's what I'm most excited about, is the unknown.
It's interesting you mentioned the digital asset ownership, because John and I, we talked about this on our one-on-one call, which we'll get to what he's building here shortly. But I want to pause and give a quick shout out to the community, Network Spotlight community, which is a community that I've been building since 2022. It's a collective effort, to be honest with you. It's Web3 professionals, it's founders, it's builders. And so we've got a few members here that that are joining this call, and they've got a few questions or comments. So I'm going to call on them as well. Annie, go ahead and
Yeah, thanks, Mikhail. So Patrick, how does this structure work with publishers? As a studio that's scaling up a AI and gaming publisher, how do you see that role of the space you're filling compared to the studio, compared to the game publisher?
Yeah, I mean, relative to publishers, right? Our goal as a platform is to make it easier for them. We're not supplanting them in any ways, right? You know, I don't think, I don't know of any publishers out there that, you know, exclusively go with just KOLs. It's usually a hybrid strategy of reaching users, driving awareness, and then, you know, acquiring those users. Our goal and our vision is just to simplify the process. You know, if you've launched games, you know what it takes to go and talk to either KOLs directly or the management companies, and then look at their, you know, viewership stats and conversion stats, and then their pricing, and then compare, right? Like, if we can speed that process up from taking weeks to days, then all of us win. The influencers win, the developers win, and the publishers win. Our goal is not to supplant publishers. Our goal is just to provide the tools and infrastructures that allow them to operate more efficiently at scale and at speed.
Chadwick, you also had a question or a comment, perhaps? You're on mute, by the way. Yeah.
Hey, so hey Patrick, by the way, pleasure meeting you, and yeah, appreciate that brief you gave to everyone. The question though, I do clearly see the value proposition for the KOLs as well as game developers, like developers in general. But what I'm struggling with is the value proposition for the gamer, and I'm not talking about the Web3 game, because I mean, I think what you're building here truly resonates with Web3 gamers, especially because the most majority of them are retail investors more than Web3 gamers, or like more than gamers. But what's that clear value proposition for the Web2 gamer?
For the Web2 gamer? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think for the Web2 gamer, it's new ways to interact and discover some of their favorite titles. When we can unify these ecosystems under one roof, it provides an opportunity for them to engage their favorite influencers in new ways. It provides them a way to engage with their group of friends and find new groups of friends. But I think more importantly for the player is, we have this concept of reward or loyalty points, right? You look at Steam, you look at Epic Games Store, they all have some form of Steam points, if you will, right? Which I don't know if any of you are familiar with, but you can go and use Steam points, but it's largely for nonsensical or cosmetic items in game. The beauty of having a token associated with Helix and having that token ultimately listed with underlying real world value is those points from purely playing games actually become meaningful and useful, because they can actually stack up over time to allow you to use those tokens to procure premium titles or premium in-game items. So I think it's interaction, it's community, and then ultimately it's reward over time.
There's some really good comments here as well. Anita posted about indie titles are doing a lot better than AAA titles lately, and it seemed to get a lot of positive feedback from Angela and Jordan. So thanks for chiming in on that. And by the way, Anita, I didn't even make an introduction to you, but for those that are watching, this is Anita with LFG, and her team, they're actually the ones responsible for this amazing production that we're seeing on YouTube right now. So thanks so much to what you guys are doing and helping out. And we'll definitely have to get a couple of comments from you about what it is that you guys are working on at LFG. But before we get to that, let's transition here. Patrick, thanks so much for sharing about Helix and all the comments. Appreciate everyone here. So let's talk about what Johnny is working on, which is the Valley. And this is a very unique concept, not something that I've seen before. Take it away, Johnny.
Yeah, thanks, Mikhail. Thanks for everyone who's joining. So we at Valley Arcade Games, Inc., guess I'll start from where I was at before. My wife and I opened an arcade bar here in Beacon, New York, 5 years ago this August. It's been great. We've had success. About 3 years ago, looked around for a Web3 arcade cabinet for our patrons, bring in a new demo, something exciting, link actual rewards to a cabinet. Came to find it didn't exist. I had been in the crypto space for about 7 years, and so started reaching out to contacts that I had made in the Web3 side, venue owners and operators to gauge interest, as well as distributors for actual arcade cabinets, and probably most importantly, developers from a lot of these really cool like indie arcade games that are having like a bit of a little renaissance now. And flash forward, here we are. We have built out a online web arcade that you can play currently. We call it the Valley Web Arcade, and you can play that on mobile, PC, Mac. But I think most importantly, and what sets us apart, is we have partnered with a company that I don't think most people would know, but they are behind most Sega, Bandai Namco, Nintendo cabinets. They're called Fun Company. It's a warehouse, and they are based in the middle of Wisconsin. And they love the idea. Like, there were a couple like Web3 gamers on the team that I think convince everybody else to give us a shot. And now we have the world's first Web3 physical arcade cabinet. The whole idea here is, I, like a lot of other people, thought that Web3 gaming was going to catch on and be like the catalyst for helping people understand, the benefit of, Web3 in many ways. And like a lot of people, it didn't happen, frankly. And started thinking about our idea more and going back to the basics of gaming in, the late 70s. It started with arcade cabinets, more or less. When someone comes into one of our arcade bars, whether it's a 15-year-old kid or an 85-year-old, grandma, there's something that literally like opens up within them, and they are willing to try something more. Like, I'll do a little turnaround here. We're not a huge space. We have 30-something games, like, Simpsons, Gauntlet Legends. Over here, we've got pinballs, which are huge right now. And then you can kind of see it. There it is. That's the Valley arcade cabinet with the UFO on top of it over there. Definitely a prototype right now, but we're going to start shipping those out in about September 1st is the goal, if not earlier. But when people go up to these, they just start playing them. Oh, I'm not a gamer, but I'll have a beer and I'll go play this game. So that was really where I was like, all right, there's something here, because why is Web3 gaming not catching on? We all know it's too complicated. Seed phrase. You're playing for rewards, but sometimes you don't even know how to use those rewards, or it takes $1,000 to even compete in the game to be anywhere near the level that you want to be. So we were like, let's just tear all of that down. You can come up, play this game. It doesn't say like world's first Web3 arcade cabinet. It just says, it looks cool. It says Valley on it. It's a multi-cade, so we've got indie games that are really fun to play. Our developers did a fantastic job, and you can play the game afterwards. It says, to keep your rewards, scan this QR code or input your email address. If you scan the QR code, simple Google or Discord login. Soon we'll add in more social authentication like Apple and that. And you've played a Web3 game. You now have a wallet that's automatically created for you. And you have tickets, which is our in-game currency that will at some time in the future be redeemable for Valley token. What we have decided is all of the games, first and third party, will use the Valley token as its reward token. We are working with some members of the original Nintendo World Championships, and they're super excited about doing tours where they want to start with like 10 to 20 Valley arcade cabinets, put them on trucks, and bring them to music festivals and events throughout the US. We really think that fundamentals like Web2 startup, basic startup mentality here is going to spread this. We are targeting the Web2 audience, but right now we have a small but dedicated Web3 gaming audience that they get it. They see where this is going, so they're playing these games. Even though we only have a couple hundred daily active users, like 10,000 Twitter followers, a couple thousand on Discord, we haven't done any marketing. We're starting to spread the word, but we are really focusing on the Web2 traditional organic marketing. We're talking to a bunch of venues. We're going to have 6 venues in the Northeast of the US that will start this. And the kicker is you can play the game, go up to the bar and get a free beer if you're good enough. If you suck, you can get maybe a quarter off your beer. But everybody who plays the game, they'll earn something daily from the admissions. You can get a pizza. Your tickets can be used for merch, plushies, and tournaments. We think is going to be a big one. And we're starting tournaments here soon where you put in a certain amount of tickets, and then we are just like what a lot of the sentiments that Patrick was saying, I totally agree with here. And Patrick, I know we got to have a call after this. But we think that the traditional ways of engagement working with influencers to be on Twitch during these tournaments. We actually are talking about having a Twitch stream constantly going on the arcade cabinet so that gamers come up here, they don't know what it is, but they see a Twitch stream, everyone kind of understands that they see them playing our games. We have a unique partnership with Star Atlas, which is a MMO RPG on Solana, where we have created 2 arcade games for them that will be playable inside of their main game, tapping into their great and fairly large ecosystem. We are partnering with some local breweries that are making beers for all of our games and really tapping into that like organic marketing, starting in the northeast of the US and expanding out. So I'm sure there's a million things I'm forgetting here, but we're super excited because right now we've been building for a year. We've got the physical arcade cabinets, we've got the online web arcade. If you play at the arcade cabinet, you earn at a 5 times higher rate than if you're playing at your phone or online. And that is to get some excitement, get like people coming and waiting to play the arcade. For the venue owners, it's great because our arcade cabinets are priced at $5,500, which is on the low to mid range for like a new professional indie arcade. Ours is multi-cade, but for the venue owners, they have this whole new demo. We have a lot of people in our community who are looking to purchase the cabinet and place it at these venues. So then it's even more enticing for the venue owners. Sure, I'll have a free cabinet, and then they split the profit. The owner of the arcade cabinet receives a percentage of the tickets that are emitted daily. So there's like some DPEN aspects there. There's traditional gaming aspects. We have a digital distribution platform, but we started with this niche arcade style high score leaderboard type game. So it's a skill to earn, if you will. All of our NFTs or digital skins, because some will be NFTs, some won't. They will be cosmetic in nature only, and low price points. And if we gave any benefit to someone who purchased something, arcade and high score people would lose their minds, rightfully so. They're a very dedicated, like committed community. So we're all about like driving up the tournament and leaderboard there. Yeah, profile pictures are coming out here very soon. We do have a node ecosystem where you can purchase a node for, I think we have 5 more at $375 until they go to 400. And those by running your node daily to providing to the network, then you're rewarded daily tickets, which will be redeemable for Valley token. And then the cabinets are the pre-sales starting probably next week. So we've got a lot of things to be excited about. We're also not sleeping right now. So I'm ran to this meeting. This is my second coffee of the day, and I will run to another, physically run to another meeting after this, but it's great. It's, this is why we do it.
Jordan in the comments mentioned that you should definitely reach out to colleges with game design curriculum. They would be very interested in this. So this is one of the things that I think is really cool about our community is, yeah, it's people that love Web3, but it's people that are in Web3, they're building Web3. And so a lot of times their perspectives are really interesting. And so thanks for sharing that, Jordan. And maybe that'll pay off for you, John.
Yeah, we did a global game jam. We hosted one at the arcade bar in Fort Valley, and we definitely tapped into the local college community. I will say college students are way more open to Web3 gaming. It's really I'm almost 40. The absolute absolute for Web3 gaming or crypto or NFT from the Web2 community, it's so real. So I eventually it will happen. I think many of us in here know that. But it's the transitory, how do we get them on board? You don't have to understand how the internet works, but we all use it, right? And that's what I think Patrick was talking about, what we're building, and what a lot of people are now realizing is it started where you had to have almost a deep knowledge of cryptocurrency to participate, and now we're making it as seamless as possible, almost invisible, not hiding it, but make it easy for anybody.
Perfect. Sounds good. Does anybody have any questions for John before we move on? But really like what I'm hearing, John. And again, I think it's just very refreshing to see a very new concept. I mean, the whole Web3 and arcade combination is just so I never even would have thought of that. And I think it's a very interesting aspect. And I think every side event around every conference should probably reach out to you and have you bring out your cabinet out to them and have people play your game. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, man. We've already been so we were at ETH Denver and then a bunch of side events, and it's funny, we like the first one, we kind of like, can somebody please allow us to bring this? And they were like, oh, okay, kind of go. And now we're getting hit up left and right, which is awesome. It's just really fun and engaging for people. At the first, we were at the official like ETH Denver launch party. Everyone was just going by. They're like, oh, there's an arcade cabinet, cool. Then I realized I had to be like, a carnival person, like yelling like world's first Web3 arcade cabinet, and then like everyone turned at once and then like ran to it, which is cool.
I do have a question. Well, it's coming from the community here about COPA concerns, COPA within Web3 gaming, specifically in arcades.
I don't believe that is an issue because I don't know what COPA is. So
The Child Online Protection Act.
Child Online Protection Act. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Our lawyer brought this up in the first meeting and said if we offer tickets at the arcade and then they can be redeemable later, and then we have all the terms and conditions within the redemption process, then we don't have to worry about COPA at all. But yeah, thanks for the reminder.
Yeah,
and
very good.
Digital tickets, not physical tickets.
And John and Patrick, if you guys want to drop your contact information, so if anybody doesn't want to, post their questions publicly, or they just want to be able to connect with you in private, they can certainly do so.
Totally.
Absolutely.
We'll do Telegram and our arcade.
And I also want to shift the conversation over to Anita, because Anita's with LFG, and as I mentioned beginning of the show, that her and her team are part of this whole production, but they're doing much more than that. Anita, do you want to share a little bit about what you guys are working on?
Sure. So with LFG, we are a Web3 native team that supports projects across pretty much every growth of stage. And yeah, that includes everything from advising tokenomics, validator infrastructure, community strategies, creative direction, and pretty much exchange readiness. So we've worked behind the scenes with some of the bigger ecosystems in Web3. And our focus is usually on helping founders build a strong team of foundations, tell compelling stories, and grow a sustainable ecosystem. So whether that's a small advisory or a larger scale launch, we just do what we need to do to help you guys succeed. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do in a nutshell.
Hey, Chad, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want some clarification. Is it like in a sense of agency thing, or like is it an incubation? What kind of like?
We would be an incubator.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I know we're not as exciting as Patrick and Johnny's, so it's okay.
But you play
we're
a
kind of
very
like the
critical
boring,
role.
we're the boring background people, but we try and grow you guys as much as we can. And yeah, we're here to advise with any strategies you guys need, and we have the team to help support any of the customer service and things like that you guys require as well. So
I'm a strong.
We also do production.
Yeah. I'm a strong advocate for the LFG team, but I'm also special since we're all, a lot of us are ex-Gala. So, but no, they're a great team.
I would echo that sentiment as well, 100%.
Yes, Annie.
Yeah, I think, Mikhail, looking at the members on stage today, it's really refreshing. Most of the folks here have been in the Web3 gaming space for at least, let's say, 3-4 years. And I have as well. If you go back to the early 2020, 2021 days, we recognized that the game studios needed to scale up, but also the infrastructure, the support ecosystems needed to as well. And at Lizard Labs, we've had a front row seat to all of the development since then. We've watched dozens of games come in and really fail out because in many cases they lack the support, they lack the publishing support, they lack the infrastructure with the blockchains, the user experience wasn't good enough, etc. And so it's just really encouraging to me to see the sector continue to grow in the way that it needs to with the support organizations, while we're watching the studios continue to push forward with games. There are objectively some studios that have good games available, and they need to be supported in the same way that in traditional gaming, no studio does it by themselves, right? They're always working with partners, with infrastructure and ecosystem players to ensure that they can be successful. And so, as we continue on with our publisher journey, it's really refreshing to be able to work with partners like these guys to bring studios to the forefront to be able to onboard and retain users.
Annie, one of the things that as I observe Web3 and just the cyclical nature of what we go through, right, where it's Bitcoin and then you have the infrastructure plays, and gaming tends to lag a lot of those narratives. And I think it's because everyone is so focused on the price. If there's a token related to the project, but I'm really hoping that we can kind of separate the two and focus more on the experience. And maybe that's a sign that the experience isn't quite there yet, because right now the excitement comes in usually that last part of that bull cycle, right? And I think it's because there is a lot of attention on the price movement and not the actual experience. Just my observation.
Yeah. We've seen this happen over and over again. And frankly, as one of the OG communities that's been investing, I mean, we've deployed over 6 million to Web3 gaming startups in the past 4 years through ETH. We recognize that at this point, gaming is like the worst vertical possible for Web3 token appreciation. All right, token appreciation is based on primarily speculation and quick network effects. That is the exact opposite of what game development takes, right? You spend years, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, if you're Star Citizen, 20 years, whatever, to actually build out a game. And then in that intervening time period, you're trying to keep a community together and keep speculation and interest in to keep a token high. It's a really poor mix for price appreciation and for Web3 speculation to work. I do think that the asset ownership elements, the community involvement, the decentralized ethos is incredibly valuable. That's why I'm working in this space. And so I think that's going to continue to be the case, but it's not going to be something that really captures the attention of Web3 more broadly, because every other sector you can grow quicker in terms of the turnaround time for token price appreciation.
Yeah, I think to echo that, I think if you are building a game and your underlying business model is predicated on token appreciation versus value exchange, you are doomed to fail.
Yeah, definitely agree. And so, I think kudos to everyone who's still here building in the Web3 gaming space. They probably have realized that's the case by now, and they're probably still here because they believe in the technology and the industry's potential, and not in short-term price appreciation. Go get your bags with meme coins and DPIN and AI and RWA and everything else that's going to pump quicker than gaming. But if you're here, you have a passion for gaming, I think, at this point.
I think that's a great point. If you're still in this space, you're either a masochist or you truly believe in it. Because it's you have to have a real project, or at least believe you have a real project to be still building in Web3 gaming in many ways. And just shout out, it's really cool how one of your members, Mikhail, is actually going to be at Happy Valley tonight. We're just figuring that out. She's like, oh, I'm there for something totally that wasn't even aware of it. So yeah, that's this community in action.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear. And like you said, yeah, it's amazing to see the community come together and support each other. Chadwi.
Yeah, I do have a question for both for Patrick and Annie. I get that point about you have to focus on producing something that is founded by exchange of value. But do you think that would be aligning with the current like the current Web3 gamers, which they are mainly looking for something where they will be extracting value instead of exchanging value? So how do you envision that be aligning with the current like market or like market dynamics?
I actually think it's a separate segment. Quite frankly, we used to call it in a prior life the entrepreneurial metagame. Right, there are people that are getting into the community, engaging with the title because they're speculating on performance and vis-a-vis return, right? You know, but I don't see a ton of overlap. There is some, but a ton of overlap between the core gamers and the speculative entrepreneurial metagamers. So, you know, at my core, you know, I still fundamentally believe it's, you know, there's value in scaling your audience. But if the core is purely speculative and extractive users, then that title does not have a very long shelf life.
And I would also argue that if you are not looking for a purely extractive system, then long term it's the most likely to succeed, and then you can have your potential extraction moment. But it's with a healthy system, ecosystem that once you extract, it doesn't all fall apart. Yeah, so it's again just like fundamental way of thinking about it as opposed to the cycles.
Yeah, and I think there's two different types of economic players that we see. There are, let's call them metagamers, like financial metagamers. These are the same people that we call whales in traditional gaming, right? They're the people that are willing to spend hundreds, thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars playing a game. They're not playing the same game if they play in like Diablo Immortal or whatever as like the rest of the player base is competing in, right? You've got your metagamers and your infragamers. The metagamers are playing to try and be like the most efficient at spending money against other whales. You have that same that you had that in NFTs. You had it in early stage, Web3 gaming, and so those are people that are they're spenders into the ecosystem for sure. They're buying NFTs. They're competing in a different type of game. They're competing in an economic meta game. And then you've got the farmers, and those are individuals that are primarily looking for extraction. They're willing to trade their time for returns, right? For effectively money. And those individuals are the same that, they're going to be out looking for, like, let me go watch this video and I'll get paid, 20 cents for watching this video. And I'm going to try and set up like a video bot farm to do the same thing 100 times so that I can make, $500 a month or whatever from that, sort of side hustle. Like, neither of those groups are like infragamers who are going to be focused on your primary core gameplay. Like, the core gameplay is irrelevant to both of those parties. And so many of the Web3 gaming studios have gotten in trouble by not understanding the different demographics and player bases between the metagamers, the farmers, and the actual infragamers. And they appeal to the wrong one, or maybe, in some cases, maybe they're appealing to the one that they intend to, or the ones they intend to. But it generally has not been most of the infragamers that we've seen in the past 3 years that have been targeted, because the player experience is so challenging in Web3 that the friction that's inherent in onboarding and retaining players with wallets and transaction signing and all of the, macroeconomic impacts, it's really difficult to actually attract infragamers. And that's part of the reason, not the only one, but part of the reason why we haven't seen more traction from a user standpoint to playing the games, because we're generally 95% plus metagamers and farmers that are here in the sector today.
I totally agree with you. I think in my opinion, though, I think having like the part about like tokenization in general, it's kind of like makes it very tough for any gaming project. And the reason for that, because the moment you do that, and even though, I mean, I've seen a lot of builders though, especially in the last like 3 years, and when they start about like their gaming project, they start thinking about, you know what, we'll be having like one of the easiest Web3 experiences that you can go through. That's like the first thing. And second thing, this would be primarily around like the gameplay itself, not like being extracting any value. However, the issue is like the moment you start like tokenizing stuff, whether through like powering a token in or like tokenizing any particular asset, that's where you start subjecting yourself to these whales as well as these farmers. And then because like you have a token or whatever, and you need these speculators as well as you need these people, you start by time trying to be pleasing them or like meeting their expectations, on which you start losing sight of what's being important here, which is making or like providing that experience that you want to provide for the Web2 gamer, on which you start losing sight of that, and you start finding yourself creating a different product that will be doomed to be failing, because that demographic is actually having that culture of like jumping between one product to the other just for extracting value. But yeah.
I have a question for you all. So Bloodloop, I believe, is one of the only games that made it mainstream. By mainstream, I mean on PlayStation. What do you think has been the key to their success?
You know, I honestly don't know. Having never played it or really dove deep into it, but now I'm curious, so I'm going to.
Yeah,
Yeah, please go ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say I know Pasquale on the team, and I had a chance to play it at Tokyo Game Show last year. I think they've done a good job of appealing to the Asian audience. This is something that I think most people in the industry recognize, is that Asia is almost assuredly going to be the place where Web3 gaming really catches on in a big way, because culturally, it's much more accepted in Asia for you to tie real world assets into like the general gameplay space. This has been true for decades. In fact, some games have different versions. They have different servers, different regions that they allow different types of transactions to take place in the West versus in the East. And so this, I think, is one demonstrated example. I don't know for sure their player base numbers, but from what I recall when I talked to the team out in Tokyo, like they were making a really big push in Asia. And if they've been successful from a player base standpoint, I would assume that's why.
Yeah, and in the in the West, you almost have to hide the fact that you are a Web3 game, unless you're going full on, and you can have success in that way too. And that, because of that, at Valley, we were trying to come up with a system where the Web3 side can fully interact and redeem for a token, and you can have your wallet and have full control over it. For the non-Web3 person, we're not leading with play this crypto game. Once a wallet's created for you, we actually have access, if you have a support ticket, to retrieve your seed phrase, because we're going to be like hand holding a lot of these people to have a wallet and play Web3 game for the first time. Once they feel comfortable, they can transfer that to a new wallet and or take away access for us to have it. So it's full ownership. If you're a Web3 person coming in, you're like, oh, I don't want to bother with any of that. I can already attach my other wallet or transfer it over to MetaMask. So we're trying to have it so that we can slowly bring these Web2 people over along in as easy, non-friction way as possible, while having a full ecosystem for the Web3 gamers that what they expect and would want in terms of full ownership.
I think from my side, as I'll be giving my opinion as a user, like as a gamer, and to your question, Mikey, I think the issue is not the issue. Like, I think maybe one of the primary reasons for their success is like going away. I mean, first, going away from providing like a native Web3 experience on which you have to go to creating a wallet somewhere, like somewhere, wherever it is, like maybe it's MetaMask or whatever, and then going back here and then like going to an exchange to get the token and then going back here and then like you'll be able to access the product, which is like too many layers. And even though, by the way, practically speaking, it can be streamlined, but I mean, again, for some reason, a lot of builders doesn't really streamline that process. And also the other thing is like for me as a gamer, and let's say I'm a Web2 gamer, have nothing to do with Web3. I don't really care what you mean by Web3. I don't really care about a lot of these words that you will be like just dropping at me for the sake of making it like harder to me to understand what exactly the kind of value proposition that you're offering for me as a gamer. And also, I also agree with Annie on a particular point about the Asia market. For example, I mean, me and my team, we have been discussing through our GTM going to Asia, and the primary reason for that, because Asia actually, like the people from there, I'm talking in terms of culture, they don't have issues with challenging experiences. I mean, for example, you see like this super app kind of things that you see on Asia, but you don't see on for example, on the West, because it's a culture there. And I mean, I'm not sure if any of you have any experience with super apps, but if you go and try like any super app that they have, for example, WeChat, you'll find it like a very challenging experience. But they don't have any issue with it there because they are like have that culture of learning new stuff and learning new challenging stuff. While on the West, you find like more like trying to streamline that experience and making it as easy as you can and making your UI UX as simple as you can, as well as like with less details as you could provide. So yeah, I think it comes down like primary to streamlining the process, making like the experience easier, providing like a value proposition in the human language and like the Web2 human language, and also trying like to provide something that looks cool and feels cool.
Thanks for sharing, Shadowy. Mark, you had your hand up as well. And also, by the way, real quick, before I let you speak, Mark, Johnny, if you can drop your Discord channel, we've got some folks in the comment section that are interested in joining your Discord.
Mikhail,
go ahead.
I apologize. I do have to jump, but I just wanted to say thank you for hosting and thank you for all of the great questions. And it's been terrific. So
it was a real pleasure. Thanks for joining, Patrick.
Bye, Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Mikhail. Once again, thank you for hosting this session. John, I think what you're saying about the wallet thing, I saw it first time, and I'm actually experiencing it real time. And I think I had a chat with Mikhail as well. This has actually been implemented already by Helium Mobile. So I actually was, I think they introduced a feature called the free service. So you have like limited amount of call and text. The fun part about was that, you know, I onboarded, like this was my experiment. I onboarded people that didn't know anything about crypto. And it was very fun because what I told them was, hey, if do you go to walk or do you go running or exercise or something like that? So they said yes. And I showed them about the helium mapping, right? Now they're moving around and they're like, you know, getting the tokens and everything. It's really fun to watch. I mean, their ecosystem has changed a lot. It changes a lot. You know, there was governance. One token was shifted to the other. But the fun part was the most important thing was here. What I observed was that I didn't need to teach them how to, you know, the wallet and the onboarding and anything. They just had to download the Helium mobile app. And I just, you know, referred them, and they just put in their payment information, just like signing up for any cell phone service, right? I mean, the other part was like, they were using this as a secondary line because they didn't have to pay anything here. But instead, they're actively doing discovery mapping, like they're running around and like, it's actually kind of gamified. It's really fun to watch. But the key takeaways here is like, they really don't even know about crypto or wallet. But instead, now they're getting interested like, hey, I have this token here. So how can I cash them in? It's very
100%.
funny. So, I
Yeah.
mean, this is already here. On the flip side, I will say here, just going through a post, and Mikhail can attest to, he's coming from Certic. I'm always going to be concerned about the security part because, if they go deep into that rabbit hole and they're holding like thousands of dollars of assets and like, just one click, like it happened to an experienced person like me where I just Googled Magic Eden and I clicked on a link and I went to it was like, why is this site asking me for my seed phrase in my wallet? So that's like immediately trigger, right? But for people like this, that's the only catch for this entire system. But this system is already activated. Been running for almost 3 years. Helium Mobile did it, and it works very smooth. And if people want to dabble their feet in crypto, they can do that. And if they don't really want to do that, then there's an option for them. It's like through the app. They really sign through an email. It's very simple, straightforward process, just like any other Web2 app.
Yeah.
To your point, Mark. Go ahead, Johnny.
Oh, I was just going to say we've been in fairly close talks with Helium. They would like to put a Helium mobile hotspot in each one of our arcade cabinets. I owe them another call because I haven't talked to them in about a month. But it's a great DPen experience that they've built out there. They see the Valley Arcade cabinets as like a DPen big box that's going to be in a bunch of venues, which is an interesting way to think of it. And you're totally right. It's part of our mantra as well. It's like show people, don't tell them. I think Helium did a great job with that, where it's not like the crypto phone or internet service. It just works really well and is seamless. And then people slowly realize themselves that they don't have to be convinced, right? They look at it and they like, I've got now something that has value. And that's how you can convert them. That's what we're trying to do, something similar with gaming. So totally agree. Yeah, and then quick point on the security. We actually were building the system out where a lot more was in the cabinet, and then we've gone back from that simply to make it more seamless and more safe. So you cannot extract by being logged into the cabinet. So no one can take your tickets. You can only earn tickets. So the worst thing that could happen is you keep yourself logged in and the next person earns something for you, just like if someone were to take your physical tickets at a Chuck E. Cheese, let's say.
Yeah.
And Mark, to your point, there's so many aspects that you have to worry about. As a user, you have to worry about your own personal security. As the actual developer, you have to worry about the smart contract security. But then there's also certain aspects outside of that smart contract. Like there's ways to manipulate a game to your own benefit. You can cheat through your way through. And I'm not saying it's easy to do, but there's so many aspects of security that you have to worry about in gaming. So, I mean, you bring up a really good point, and it is something that, I'm happy to see that, Johnny seems to be taking it very seriously.
Well, I mean, that's what impeding our space from like, the massive adoption that, I mean, it's tarnishing our space. But on the flip side also, like for me, I think Web3 gaming, I'm seeing it because, the arguments that I listened to very carefully today, just resonating with a simple conversation that I have with my gamer friend. It's like, why would I need money? Like, why would I need money to play my game? I just want to play a game and I just want to be done. And I think what is happening here, I see these two things that could happen. Okay, this generation is just gonna go away, and then the new generation that's gonna come up, it's gonna be that one that will be adopting it. It's similar to those 80s generation, right? We went from typewriter. Like a 4-year-old kid is now operating like, I mean, he can't live without a smartphone, right? So automatically, the new generation is going to pick it up, and then it's just going to balloon and balloon, because I think Web3 gaming brings a lot of key factors like ownership, right? Ownership of assets. I think decentralization. And you're seeing that, like, like content creators, like example, cross sector thing. If you're on YouTube and somebody really wanted to go ahead and do some really immense damage on you, and you're just stating the fact, your channel is gone. It's really hard to do that on a blockchain, like kind of like decentralized infrastructure. So I think with the gaming also, I see that also happening if it's in that decentralized mode as well. And Web3 is kind of like a hybrid between permission, non-permission, centralized, decentralized. So we'll see a lot of variations of it, but it's a lot of evolution. But I eventually think is if the focus is on those generation, or those sectors, or those sections of gamers that are really adopting it, I think that would yield some really magnificent results. But obviously, you still have a large pool of people, right? And you don't want to leave them out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Mark. And on that note, guys, we're past the hour mark. This has been a great conversation. I think we can continue having it, but I think this is a really good place for us to pause. And next time, I'd love, Johnny, for you to come back. And I know Patrick's not on the call anymore, but I'd love to get a demo from you guys. Like, I think that'd be a really cool thing to experience. And some of the other folks here in the community, if you're working on anything interesting, would love to connect. I'll drop my Telegram here. If you're not in the community, that's my Telegram that I just dropped. And if you'd like to join the community, for those that are here in the space, or perhaps you're just on YouTube watching, go to networkspotlight.io. There's a short form to fill out. I'll get in contact with you so you can join and be part of these conversations that we're having. It's gaming, it's DeFi, it's anything Web3 related, right? It's all interesting, at least for me. At least I'm a generalist. I'm not an expert in any one field, but this is all interesting to me. And thank you to Johnny for sharing about the Valley. Thank you to Patrick for sharing about Helix. Thank you to the LFG team for putting all of this together. And thank you for those that have tuned in and participated in this conversation. We certainly appreciate all of you. It takes a village, and let's keep building. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Mikhail.
Thanks.